Hey folks, this is BestInSlot, let's talk Camp Cretaceous. As per usual, there will be spoilers ahead for basically the entire show. If you haven't seen it yet, go get on it right now. Top priority, real world responsibilities are for nerds. Everyone sorted? Cool, let's get started. So, where the hell are all of the adults? This is something that bugged me a little bit in Season 2, but by the end of Season 3 it's straining believability to pretty ridiculous proportions. Now, before the pitchforks come out, Camp Cretaceous is a child-friendly animated show, so we should expect some level of believability straining. It does come with the medium. This is absolutely not a big deal that I'm up in arms about, but instead we're going to talk about it as a problem we can fix through our own wibbly-wobbly in-universe justifications, because that's fun, I think. So what the devil am I talking about? That's two references to hell already, so Satanists, smash that like button, thanks. Anyways, at the end of Season 1, Jurassic World was evacuated, leaving our intrepid campers behind to fend for themselves and go all Rambo on us. Roxie and Dave, the adults in charge of protecting the kids, were evacuated along with everyone else, and despite a scene showing them freaking out and trying to get the boat turned around, we never actually see either of them again. We hear them in a couple of scenes in later seasons, but after that scene at the end of Season 1, all the adults the kids interact with are largely super duper baddies, except Hap's a Chad. And this seems weird to me. There's a huge number of different adults who have an investment in getting the kids off the island. Roxie and Dave want to help them because they care about them, and also because, well, it was kind of their job to look after them, and a bunch of kids stranded on a dinosaur-filled island probably doesn't look great on the old CV. The kids' parents, of course, should also be, somewhat invested, I would say, in getting their kids back alive. We could make some exceptions, but even Kenji's one-to-way dad surely doesn't want his kid being eaten alive by compies or being crushed to death by being sat on by Bumpy. And of course, Masrani itself, it might be a little bit ruined as a company in the wake of Jurassic World, but I think being held responsible for the deaths of 6 kids probably looks even worse in all the court cases that inevitably followed. Then there's the governments. We have yet more parties, both the US government, who have 6 children stranded in overseas territory, and the Costa Rican government itself. It really seems like it would put a strain on international relationships, to say the least, and we'll be coming back to this later. Just to throw a little bit more fuel onto this fire, Wu turned up in Season 3 and he was completely unaware that the kids were there. He's a prominent figure in a position of relative power. If anyone knew the kids were still on the island, wouldn't he be one of them? Surely this would be all over the news? Surely the parents would be crying out in the media about their forgotten children. Like I say, I can strain credibility a little bit and think maybe Kenji's parents don't care, and Sammy's have other things on their mind given the whole blackmail malarkey, but Darius's remaining family, Brooklyn's, Yaz's, eesh. So the first assumption we have to make is that it's all being kept under wraps for some reason. Or that Dr. Wu doesn't watch the news, but that seems unlikely. Obviously people are going to know, there's families and the guardians involved, but for some reason it hasn't blown up into this big media hullabaloo, which is a fantastic word by the way. Someone wants to keep it quiet. The first option then is that Masrani in its now nearly defunct form has paid off everyone involved. Assumedly in a poorly lit parking lot at midnight and involving a lot of trench coats. They'd have to pay off Roxie and Dave as well, so that's 8 separate people or groups of people who would need quietening. That seems unlikely, not least of all because Kenji's parents are already loaded, and I don't think there's an amount of money on the planet that would get most parents to stop looking for their kids. There's definitely some for some parents, but I'd like to think for, say, my parents, if they said, here's 2 million quid, my dad would instead go, yeah, no, I'll go save my kid, thank you very much. My mum too, sorry mum. Of course, they could simply say the kids are dead, launch a big campaign, hold funerals and vigils, and try to keep Dave and Roxie quiet in the meantime. They're the only ones who know the kids are alive after all. If you can disparage Roxie and Dave or quieten those two down, you could in theory play it off to the rest of the world. And Wu, as much as he did soften a little bit in Season 3, is at least a little invested in the kids never getting off the island considering the events of the season. He's probably not going to be popping onto BBC News as soon as he gets onto the mainland, let's put it that way. Thankfully, Jurassic Park World, as a franchise, seriously, do I call it World or Park now? I have no idea, has already tackled this problem before in the much beloved Jurassic Park 3. Much beloved. In Jurassic Park 3, the Kirbys have lost their kid, Eric, on Isla Nublar, after an ill-fated gliding trip with good old Ben Hildebrand. After some faffing around and being eaten by Spinosaurus, Grant punches Paul Kirby, how dare he, and Paul spills the proverbial beans. Eric is lost on the island. The Costa Rican government has said it's a no-fly zone, and the US Embassy said, and I quote, "We should accept the inevitable." I do find it a little hard to believe that the US government would lean that way and just go, yeah, you know, they're dead, what are you going to do? But if the Costa Rican side was pushing really hard for this no-fly zone, then there's a chance the US would rather not risk an international incident between the two countries. Would they realistically be beaten back by Costa Rica of all countries? Probably not, but it's at least within the realms of possibility. So we could apply this to Camp Cretaceous. The islands are once again a no-fly zone after yet another dinosaurs eating people incident, and the US, rather than annoying their Costa Rican counterparts, decides to play along. The problem here is, it's not one kid, it's 6, and plenty of people do know about it, inevitably. So there's no way we couldn't have a media hullabaloo, there it is again, at the very least. Instead, I think it's more likely that the US government has asked everyone involved, the families, Dave, Roxie, to keep quiet, and promises to work and bargain with the Costa Rican government as much as possible to be allowed to go back in and rescue the kids. Now, given the kids do at some point still need to get off the island and onto the mainland, and let's be honest, it's probably not going to happen, in Season 4, until the end of Season 4 and Season 5, maybe what we're going to see at the end of Season 4 is the US Navy rocking up to save the kids from Isla Nublar, or another one of the 5 deaths, if that's indeed where they end up. And hey, that would be another nice little shout out to Jurassic Park 3. Funnily enough, when trying to research similar situations to what's going on here in Camp Cretaceous, maybe, sans the dinosaur bit, there's a lot of recent results, because of COVID. Is this where I get demonetized? Anyways, a lot of people were stranded overseas when the infection hit properly, with their own countries unwilling to take them back because of the risk of infection. We saw it in particular, people travelling from China, people travelling from India, I found a lot, stuff like that. Now, I'm not suggesting that's an illogical thing to do, but it did leave a lot of people feeling abandoned by their own governments. Is that an angle the show could take? Could someone argue that there's an actual risk at retrieving the children, rather than pretending they're dead already or whatever, just say we can't get them because such and such? Be that a potential viral outbreak or something else. Manta in particular have a good reason to keep the kids stranded. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they'd concoct some sort of lie to stop them from being rescued. It would certainly be a timely excuse for what's going on in the world right now, although it might, hit a little bit too close to home for a lot of people and be the kind of thing the show wants to avoid. I'm going off script here. I did have to rack my brain quite a lot to try to come up with another possible reason for why the kids wouldn't be rescued, because it does seem such an unlikely thing. It's been 6 months, and even if they think the kids are dead, you would expect at least a rescue team to go and take a look. People put a lot more effort than the government is right now in saving people all the time, even less people, even not children, so it seems unlikely they'd leave the kids behind. My only other thought, and this ties in a little bit to one of the rumoured theories for Camp Cretaceous Season 3 to 4. There's a dinosaur on the boat, of course, and we think maybe that's part of why they have to divert to a different island. But would they not go to the mainland, or would they not go to back to Isla Nublar? Isla Nublar is towards the northeast, and all the other islands are to the southwest. So for them to end up on another island, they would have to go away from the mainland. What I mean is they don't go past the 5 deaths to get to the mainland. The only reason they would have to go in a different direction is because something's making them. Now, the Mosasaurus has just escaped at the end of Camp Cretaceous Season 3 and is likely in the area. And a lot of people have suggested this, that the Mosasaurus could be the reason why the campers have to retreat. Could the Mosasaurus also be the reason why they're not getting rescued in the first place? By the end of Season 3 and sort of the start of Season 4, the world is entering this stage where dinosaurs are everywhere. The governments have this humongous problem on their hands of regulating and controlling this whole new thing that never used to exist. That's a big thing to handle, and 6 kids could sort of slip by the byway. If that was the case, is that a term? I don't know. The kids could kind of slip through the cracks, as it were, if that was the case. But further than that, there's a Mosasaurus between Isla Nublar and the mainland. There are pteranodons in the skies, which we've seen several times in Jurassic Park have the capability of taking down a helicopter. Maybe they simply deem it too much of a risk to the rescuers to send people into Costa Rica. Maybe it's not safe by land, air or sea. I don't know how you get that by land, but maybe by sea and air, it's simply too risky to make it alive. Maybe we'd even hear about failed rescue attempts along the way. Now this might seem like a little bit too much of a look at something that is largely inconsequential, but I would be pretty surprised, if I'm honest, if there's no mention of it at all when the kids are eventually rescued or if they turn up on the mainland by their own volition. If we don't get so much as well, what took you guys so long? I would be surprised. Every season that nobody turns up to help is another season where it becomes weirder that nobody has turned up to help. And I'm genuinely curious to see if the show does have something in mind to wrap up that part of the storyline nicely. What do you guys think? Will the show ignore this entirely? Is there a good reason nobody has come to save the day? Do you have any reasons beyond the ones I've already kind of thrown out there today? Let me know your own thoughts and theories in the comment section down below, and I'll see you lovely folks next time. Oh, and also, I'm going to do these little... I said off script again. I'm going to do these little theories and speculations and discussion videos maybe just once a week. It's not, the main focus of the channel. So if you've got anything you'd like to hear me cover next week or in a few days or whatever it ends up being, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below and I'll tackle some more stuff. I like stuff. Thanks for joining me. Cheers myself as always. Bye-bye.
Reaching out.